My wife refused to spend her birthday with me, choosing dinner with her work friend instead. She thought I was just another clueless husband who'd never figure it out. But when my 8-year-old daughter mentioned Uncle Derek buying her ice cream, everything changed in ways she never saw coming. My name is Garrett Whitman. I'm 43 years old, and I own Whitman's Recovery Services. Basically, I'm the guy you call when your car breaks down or gets repoed. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and keeps food on the table for my family. Or at least, what I thought was my family. The morning that started this whole mess was October 15th, Bethany's 38th birthday. I'd gotten up early, like I always did on her special day, to set up a little surprise. Nothing fancy, mind you. Just her favorite coffee brewing in the kitchen, a small jewelry box with earrings she'd been eyeing at the mall, and a handwritten card from our 8-year-old daughter Camila tucked beside it. Camila had worked on that card for hours the night before, drawing little hearts and writing "Happy Birthday, Mommy" in her careful second-grade handwriting. She was so excited to give it to her mom, bouncing around the house like a ping-pong ball until I finally got her settled down for bed. But when I walked into our bedroom at 7 a.m. with the coffee and gifts, the bed was empty. Cold, too, like Bethany had been gone for a while. The bathroom was dark, no sound of the shower running or her usual morning routine. Just silence. I checked my phone and found a text message sent at 6:30. Had to leave early for work. Busy day ahead. Love you. No birthday excitement. No mention of the evening plans we talked about. Just a cold, clinical message that felt about as warm as a business email. But I pushed down the weird feeling in my gut and told myself she was just stressed about work. Around noon, while I was helping Jimmy Patterson get his Buick out of a ditch on Route 9, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message made my blood run cold. Going out to dinner with Dara from the office tonight for my birthday. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at that text for a full minute, sitting in my tow truck cab while Jimmy waited outside. Derek. She'd mentioned him before, always casually, always with that little laugh that meant nothing serious. Just a work friend, she'd say. He's practically like a brother. But brothers don't take married women out for birthday dinners. And wives don't ditch their husbands and daughters for coworkers. At least, not the wives I knew. I texted back immediately. What about Camila's school concert tonight? She's been practicing for weeks. The response came back lightning fast. You can handle it. She'll understand. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. The Bethany I married would never miss our daughter's first solo performance. Not for all the Derek Morrisons in the world. I spent the rest of that afternoon running calls, but my mind wasn't on work. Every time I pulled someone's busted Honda out of a parking lot or jumped a dead battery, I kept thinking about that text message. The more I replayed it in my head, the more wrong it felt. When I got home around 5, Camila was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, her little legs swinging from the chair. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Bethany's eyes, and asked the question that hit me like a sledgehammer. Daddy, is Mommy coming to my concert tonight? I knelt down beside her chair, trying to keep my voice steady. Well, sweetheart, Mommy has to work late tonight, but I'll be there, and I'll cheer extra loud for both of us. Camila's face fell, but she promised she'd come. I practiced my song just for her. That's when something inside me shifted. My wife could lie to me all she wanted, but watching my daughter's disappointment, that was crossing a line I didn't even know existed. I helped Camila get ready for the concert, braiding her hair the way Bethany usually did it, though mine came out lopsided and she had to fix it herself. As we drove to the school, she kept asking when Mommy would be home, and I kept making excuses I didn't believe myself. The concert was in Jefferson Elementary's cafeteria, folding chairs arranged in crooked rows while parents balanced coffee cups and smartphones. I found a seat in the third row, right where Camila could see me. When it was her turn to sing "This Land Is Your Land" with her class, she searched the crowd until she found my face. I gave her a big thumbs up, but I could see the empty seat beside me reflecting in her eyes. After the concert, while I was helping Camila gather her things, Mrs. Patterson, Jimmy's wife, and Camila's teacher came over to chat. Where's Bethany tonight? Mrs. Patterson asked. She never misses these things. I forced a smile. Work emergency. You know how it is. But Mrs. Patterson didn't look convinced, and honestly, neither was I. The drive home was quiet. Camila fell asleep in her car seat, still wearing her little dress from the concert. As I carried her inside and tucked her into bed, she mumbled something that made my blood run cold. Daddy, Why does Uncle Derek buy me ice cream when Mommy picks me up from school? I stopped breathing for a second. Uncle Derek? But she was already asleep, leaving me standing in her doorway with 1,000 questions and no good answers. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer, then sat at the table staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to text Bethany to demand answers. But another part of me, the part that was starting to connect dots I didn't want to see, knew that whatever she told me would just be another lie. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I started paying attention. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I heard a car door slam or an engine start, I checked the window thinking Bethany was coming home. She didn't roll in until almost 2 a.m., and when she did, she moved through the house like a ghost, quiet, careful, guilty. The next morning, I made a decision that would have seemed crazy to me a week earlier. I was going to follow my wife. After dropping Camila off at school, she asked again about Mommy missing the concert, and I had to change the subject. I drove to the office building where Bethany worked. Morrison and Associates, a mid-sized accounting firm downtown. I'd been there plenty of times for company picnics and Christmas parties, but I'd never paid much attention to the people she worked with. I parked across the street with a clear view of the main entrance and waited. At 10:30, Bethany came out with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, lean, wearing one of those expensive suits that screamed, "I make more money than a tow truck driver." Had to be Derek Morrison. What I saw next made my hands clench the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. He put his hand on the small of her back as they walked to his BMW. Not a casual touch, not a friendly pat. The kind of intimate gesture that said they'd done this dance before. They drove to Luigi's, an upscale Italian place on 5th Street. Through the window, I watched them order wine at lunch. Wine at lunch on a Wednesday. Bethany never drank during work hours, said it was unprofessional. But there she was, laughing at whatever Derek was saying, touching his arm across the table like they were the only two people in the world. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. Not because I had some master plan, but because I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Proof that the woman I'd married, the mother of my child, was playing house with another man while I was home wondering what I'd done wrong. When they came out of the restaurant, Derek's hand found her waist again. This time, Bethany leaned into him. Actually leaned into him, like she belonged there. That's when I knew I wasn't dealing with an innocent friendship anymore. This was something else entirely. Something that had been going on long enough for them to develop their own little routine, their own signals, their own secret world that didn't include me or Camila. I followed them back to the office building, watching as they separated in the parking garage. Professional again, back to playing their parts. But I'd seen enough. Whatever game they were playing, I wasn't going to be the fool who pretended it wasn't happening. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control back. Not much, but enough to start making plans of my own. That evening, I did something that would have made the old me sick to my stomach. I went through Bethany's things like a detective working a case. While she was in the shower, taking longer than usual, I checked her purse. Found a receipt from Victoria's Secret dated 3 days ago. Lingerie. Expensive stuff. The kind she used to wear for me back when we first got married, but hadn't bothered with in years. I also found something else. A hotel key card wedged between her credit cards like she was trying to hide it. The Grandview Hotel. Last Friday night. The same Friday, she told me she was working late on the Henderson account. My hands were shaking as I put everything back exactly where I'd found it. When Bethany came out of the bathroom, wearing a towel, I was sitting on the bed pretending to read my phone. "How was work?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Bethany glanced at me in the mirror while she brushed her hair. "Fine. Busy. Derek and I had to go over some client proposals." Derek and I, like they were a team, like I was just some guy she happened to live with. "That's nice," I said. "Maybe I should take you out for lunch sometime. Been a while since we did that." She froze for just a second, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. "Oh, you know how crazy work gets. Hard to get away during the day." But she'd gotten away just fine to have wine with Derek Morrison. Later that night, after Bethany fell asleep, I did something else I'd never done before. I called my buddy Mike Torres, who runs a private investigation service. We'd known each other since high school, and he'd helped me out of a few jams over the years when customers tried to stiff me on towing fees. "Mike, it's Garrett. I need a favor." Mike's voice was groggy. "Jesus, Garrett, it's midnight. What's going on?" "My wife's cheating on me." Silence on the other end. "Then, you sure about that?" "Sure enough." I need to know how long it's been going on and how deep it goes. This is going to cost you, brother. And once you know, you can't unknow it. I looked over at Bethany, sleeping peacefully beside me, her face relaxed and innocent in the moonlight. In a few hours, she'd wake up and kiss my cheek and tell me she loved me, just like she had every morning for the past 8 years. And it would all be a lie. I need to know, I told Mike. All of it. Give me 3 days, he said. I'll call you Friday. 3 days to find out if my marriage was worth saving or if I needed to start planning a very different kind of future. 3 days to decide if I was going to keep playing the fool or start fighting back. I hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling until dawn, listening to my wife breathe beside me and wondering how long she'd been lying to my face. Friday afternoon, Mike called me while I was winching a Ford Explorer out of Mercy Creek. I've been waiting for this call all week, but when my phone rang, I almost didn't want to answer it. Garrett, we need to meet, Mike said. His voice was different. Serious. You free tonight? Yeah. Bethany's got book club. Another lie. I was sure, but I didn't bother calling her on it anymore. We met at Murphy's Bar on the south side of town, the kind of dive where truckers and construction workers went to forget their problems. Mike was already there when I arrived, nursing a beer and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Before I start, Mike said as I sat down, you sure you want to hear this? Because once I tell you, there's no going back. I ordered a whiskey and knocked it back. Tell me everything. Mike opened a manila folder and spread photos across the sticky table. Pictures of Bethany and Derek at restaurants, hotels, even walking hand in hand through Riverside Park where she used to take Camila to feed the ducks. It's been going on for 4 months, Mike said. Started right after the company retreat in August. They've been meeting twice a week, sometimes 3 times. Always the same hotels, the Grandview downtown, the Hampton Inn by the highway. I picked up one of the photos. Bethany was laughing at something Derek had said, her hand on his chest like she owned him. What about Camila? That's the part that's going to hurt the most, Mike said quietly. She's been taking her daughter with her sometimes, telling the kid that Derek's just a friend from work, but he slid another photo across the table. It showed Derek pushing Camila on a swing at Jefferson Park while Bethany watched from a bench. They looked like a family, a happy family that didn't include me. How many times? I asked. At least 6 that I could document. Always when you were working late calls. The whiskey in my stomach turned to acid. She's been using our daughter as cover for her affair. Mike nodded grimly. It's worse. I talked to a guy who works at the Grandview. They know them by name there. Derek's been telling people Bethany's his girlfriend. Not his affair, not his side piece. His girlfriend. I stared at the photos until they blurred together. 4 months of lies. 4 months of watching me kiss her goodbye in the morning while she planned her next secret meeting. 4 months of using our 8-year-old daughter as an unwitting accomplice. There's one more thing, Mike said. Derek Morrison isn't just some random coworker. He's the boss's nephew. Management track. Word is Bethany's been angling for a promotion, and sleeping with Derek is her ticket to the top. That hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't some grand romance. This wasn't love making her do crazy things. This was calculated. Strategic. She was trading her family for a corner office and a better parking spot. What do you want to do? Mike asked. I gathered up the photos and put them back in the folder. I want to end this. All of it. Saturday morning, I woke up with a plan. Not just any plan, a plan that would give Bethany exactly what she thought she wanted, just not how she expected to get it. While Bethany was getting ready for what she claimed was a girls' day shopping trip, I called her office. Derek Morrison answered his direct line on the second ring. Derek, this is Garrett Whitman, Bethany's husband, I said in my friendliest voice. Silence on the other end. Then, hi. What can I do for you? Well, I'm planning a surprise party for Bethany next weekend, and I wanted to invite some of her work friends. She talks about you all the time. I could practically hear him sweating through the phone. That's really nice of you. She's always saying how much she enjoys working with you. How you two make such a great team. I let that hang in the air for a few seconds. Anyway, the party's next Saturday at 6. Hope you can make it. I'll check my calendar. Great. Oh, and Derek, bring a date if you want. I know Bethany would love to meet whoever you're seeing these days. After I hung up, I called Mike. I need you to do something for me. Next Saturday night, I want you to be at the Grandview Hotel with a camera. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Bethany's going to panic when she realizes I know about you, Derek. And when people panic, they make mistakes. The rest of that day, I watched my wife like I was studying a foreign species. She moved through our house, played with our daughter, made dinner, all while planning her next betrayal. It was almost impressive how easily the lies came to her. That evening, while Camila was watching cartoons and Bethany was in the shower, I did something that felt like closing a door forever. I called my lawyer, Tom Bradley, the same guy who'd handle my business incorporation. Tom, I need to file for divorce, I said quietly. Jesus, Garrett, what happened? My wife's been cheating for 4 months, using our daughter as cover. I've got photos, hotel records, the works. Bring everything to my office Monday morning. We'll take her for everything she's worth. I don't want her money, Tom. I want my daughter. With what you've described, that shouldn't be a problem. Ohio courts don't look kindly on mothers who use their children to facilitate adultery. Sunday morning, Bethany announced she had to run some errands. Alone, on a Sunday, when most stores were closed. Take your time, I told her, kissing her cheek like nothing had changed. Camila and I will be here when you get back. But we wouldn't be. While Bethany was off playing house with Derek Morrison, I was going to take my daughter to my parents' place for the day. Let her spend time with people who actually loved her, who wouldn't use her as a prop in their lies. As I watched Bethany drive away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness, not relief, but the quiet certainty that comes from finally knowing exactly where you stand. The games were over. It was time to end this. Saturday arrived like Judgment Day. I'd spent the week making calls, sending invitations, and setting up what would look like a normal surprise party for Bethany's birthday. The only surprise was going to be mine. I picked up Camila from my parents' house around noon. She'd been excited all week about Mommy's party, helping me plan decorations and games. It broke my heart that she had no idea this would be the last family party we'd ever have together. Daddy, when do we get a surprise, Mommy? Camila asked as we hung streamers in the living room. Soon, sweetheart. Very soon. By 5:30, people started arriving. Bethany's sister Karen came first, then a few neighbors, some folks from my auto shop, real friends and family, the kind of people who'd been part of our lives for years, the kind who deserved to see what Bethany had really been doing behind closed doors. At 6 o'clock sharp, Derek Morrison walked through my front door like he owned the place. He'd brought flowers, expensive ones, and was wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. The nerve of this guy, showing up at my house with gifts for my wife while he'd been sleeping with her for 4 months. Garrett, Derek said, extending his hand like we were old friends. Thanks for inviting me. Where's the birthday girl? I shook his hand, gripping it just a little too tight. She'll be here any minute. Can I get you a drink? Sure. Beer's fine. I handed him a Corona and watched him scan the room, probably looking for escape routes. Smart man. He was going to need them. At 6:15, Bethany walked in carrying grocery bags, calling out that she'd picked up last-minute supplies for the party. When she saw the crowd of people in our living room, her face lit up with genuine surprise. Oh my God. You guys, she said, setting down the bags and accepting hugs from everyone. I can't believe you did this. But when her eyes landed on Derek standing by our fireplace, her smile faltered. Just for a second, but I caught it. So did Karen, who glanced between her sister and Derek with a puzzled expression. Derek, Bethany said, recovering quickly. What surprise. I didn't know Garrett had invited people from work. Derek raised his beer bottle. Wouldn't miss it. Happy birthday, Bethany. The way he said her name, intimate, familiar, made several people turn and look. My neighbor Bob raised an eyebrow. Karen's expression shifted from puzzled to suspicious. For the next hour, I watched my wife navigate the most uncomfortable situation of her life. Every time Derek tried to approach her, she found an excuse to move away. Every time someone asked how she knew him, she gave vague answers about work projects. She was trapped between her two worlds, and the walls were closing in fast. At 7:30, I tapped my beer bottle with a fork and called for everyone's attention. I'd like to make a toast, I announced, to my beautiful wife Bethany, who's been working so hard lately. She's been putting in extra hours, staying late for important meetings, even working weekends with dedicated colleagues like Derek here. Derek went pale. Bethany's smile looked painted on. So here's to commitment, I continued, raising my bottle, to dedication, and to getting exactly what you deserve. After the toast, I cornered Derek by the kitchen island, while Bethany was opening presents in the living room. Having fun? I asked quietly. Derek nodded, but sweat was beading on his forehead. Great party. Really great. You know, Derek, Bethany talks about you all the time at home, always mentioning how much she enjoys working with you. I leaned in closer. How much time you two spend together? We work well as a team, he said carefully. I bet you do. In fact, I have some pictures of just how well you work together. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Mike's photos, the two of them holding hands at Chester Steakhouse. Derek's beer bottle slipped from his hand, shattering on my kitchen floor. The crash made everyone in the living room turn and look. Everything okay in there? Karen called out. Just a little accident. I called back. Derek's just a little nervous. Aren't you, Derek? He was staring at the photo on my phone, like it was a snake about to bite him. Garrett, I can explain. Oh, I think you've explained enough. I swiped to the next photo, them coming out of the Grandview Hotel together. 4 months, Derek. 4 months of you screwing my wife while I'm working to support my family. It's not, we didn't. What? You didn't think I'd find out? You didn't think there would be consequences? I stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk into that living room, and you're going to tell everyone exactly what kind of work relationship you and my wife have been having. I can't do that. Then I will. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Hey, everyone. Derek has something he'd like to share about his work with Bethany. The living room went silent. Bethany looked like she was about to be sick. Actually, I continued, let me help him out. Derek and my wife have been having an affair for 4 months. They've been meeting at hotels, having lunch dates, and using my daughter as cover for their little romantic getaways. The silence was deafening. Then Karen stood up, her face white with shock. Bethany, she said, is this true? Bethany looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. Friends, family, neighbors who'd known us for years. People who'd celebrated our wedding, who'd thrown us baby showers, who'd been part of our lives when we were happy. She started, then stopped. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Derek tried to slip toward the front door, but Bob Mitchell, my neighbor and a former Marine, blocked his path. I don't think you're going anywhere just yet, son, Bob said calmly. Bethany, I said, my voice cutting through the tension. These people came here to celebrate you. Don't you think they deserve to know who they're really celebrating? Tears started running down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret. Just the cold satisfaction of watching a liar finally get caught. It's true, she whispered. Then louder. It's true. I've been seeing Derek. The room erupted. Karen started crying. My neighbor Mrs. Peterson gasped and put her hand over her mouth. Bob just shook his head like he'd seen this kind of thing too many times before. But I wasn't done yet. Tell them about the hotels, Bethany. Tell them how you used our daughter as an alibi. Tell them how you've been planning to leave your family for a man you've known for 4 months. And then, for the first time since this whole thing started, my wife finally told the truth. The party ended faster than a fire drill. Within 20 minutes, our living room was empty except for Bethany, Derek, and me. Karen had taken Camila to her house. Until you two figure this mess out, she'd said, giving her sister a look that could have stripped paint. Derek stood by the front door, like a cornered animal, checking his watch every few seconds. Bethany sat on our couch, still in her party dress, crying into her hands. The birthday decorations hanging around the room looked obscene now, like evidence of a life that had been nothing but a lie. Sit down, Derek, I said. We're not done talking. Look, man, I think I should just go. I said sit down. My voice had an edge to it that made Derek's eyes go wide. He sat. I walked to the closet by our front door and pulled out a manila envelope, the same one Mike had given me a week ago. Before you leave, Derek, I think there are a few things you should know about the woman you've been screwing. Garrett, please, Bethany started. Shut up. I didn't even look at her. You had your chance to tell the truth. Now it's my turn. I spread the photos across our coffee table like I was dealing cards. Pictures of them at hotels, restaurants, walking hand in hand through parks. For months of evidence that they thought would never see the light of day. This is what your great love affair looks like from the outside, I told Derek. Cheap hotel rooms and lies. Real romantic. Derek stared at the photos, his face growing paler with each one. How did you? Private investigator. Turns out, when you're not very careful about hiding an affair, It's pretty easy to document. I picked up one of the photos, them kissing in the parking lot of the Grandview Hotel. This one's my favorite. You look so happy together. Bethany was sobbing now, but I felt nothing for her. Nothing but cold, calculated anger. Here's the thing, Derek, I continued. You thought you were playing house with a free woman. But Bethany's not free. She's married. She has a daughter. She has responsibilities that she's been ignoring while she played fantasy girlfriend with you. We love each other, Derek said weakly. I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. Love? Is that what you call it when you use an 8-year-old girl as cover for your affair? When you let her call you Uncle Derek while you're sleeping with her mother? Derek's face went white. She said you two were getting divorced anyway, that it was just a matter of time. Did she? I looked at Bethany. Is that what you told him? That our marriage was already over? Bethany couldn't meet my eyes. I thought. You thought what? That you could rewrite history to make yourself feel better about being a cheater. I pulled out another envelope, the one Tom Bradley had prepared for me that morning. Well, here's some good news, Derek. Bethany wasn't lying about the divorce part, just about the timing. I handed him the papers. Congratulations. You just helped destroy a marriage and traumatize a little girl. Hope it was worth it. Derek looked at the divorce papers like they were written in a foreign language. Garrett, I swear I didn't know. You didn't know she was married? You didn't know she had a daughter? Or you just didn't care as long as you got what you wanted? The silence stretched between us like a loaded gun. Finally, I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out of my house, Derek. And if I ever see you near my daughter again, we're going to have a very different kind of conversation. Derek left without another word. And suddenly it was just Bethany and me in the house we called home for 6 years. The silence felt different now. Not peaceful, but empty. Like the life had been sucked out of the walls along with the lies. What happens now? Bethany asked quietly. I sat down across from her, the divorce papers still scattered on the coffee table between us. Now you pack your things and figure out where you're going to live. But the house is mine. Bought it with money from my business before we got married. Tom Bradley was very clear about that. She looked around our living room like she was seeing it for the last time. Maybe she was. What about Camila? What about her? When do I get to see her? I leaned forward, my voice steady and cold. That depends on you. If you fight me on this, if you try to drag our daughter through a custody battle, you'll see her every other weekend under supervision. If you're smart, if you sign the papers and make this easy, we can work out something more reasonable. She's my daughter too. Then you should have thought about that before you decided Derek Morrison was more important than your family. Bethany was crying again, but I was done being moved by her tears. I'd seen too much, learned too much about who she really was underneath the wife and mother act. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said, standing up. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. What you did was make a choice. Every day for 4 months, you chose him over us. You chose lies over truth. You chose your fantasy over your daughter's happiness. I walked to the window and looked out at the street where Camila used to ride her bike, where we used to take evening walks as a family. All of that was gone now, erased by Bethany's selfishness. I'll have my lawyer send you the custody agreement, I said without turning around. You can have your things packed and out by next weekend. Garrett, please. I know I messed up, but nothing. I finally turned to look at her. You don't get to but your way out of this. You made your choice. Now live with it. A year later, I was sitting in the same living room, but everything was different. Camila was doing her homework at the kitchen table, humming softly to herself. She'd adjusted better than I'd expected. Kids are resilient that way. Bethany saw her every other weekend and some holidays, but our daughter was thriving in the stable environment I'd built for us. I'd started dating again, nothing serious yet, but there was a woman named Sarah who made me laugh and treated Camila like she mattered. Baby steps towards something that might eventually become love again. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. Bethany had signed everything without a fight, probably realized she didn't have much choice with all the evidence stacked against her. Last I heard, she was working at a different accounting firm and living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. Derek had transferred to the company's Atlanta office shortly after our confrontation. Apparently, small towns have long memories when it comes to home wreckers. As for me, I was learning how to be happy again, learning how to trust my instincts, how to value myself enough not to accept lies and betrayal as the price of keeping someone else comfortable. Daddy, can Sarah come to dinner tomorrow? Camila called from the kitchen. If you want her to, I called back. I do. She's nice. And she actually listens when I talk. I smiled. My daughter was learning the difference between people who cared about her and people who just pretended to. That was a lesson that would serve her well for the rest of her life. The house felt peaceful now. Honest. Like the walls themselves were relieved not to have to hold secrets anymore. I'd built something real here. A home where my daughter could grow up knowing she was loved, protected, and valued. Where truth mattered more than convenience. And where promises actually meant something. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was better than the lie I'd been living. And that was enough.